Good morning and welcome again to another Straight Talk Saturday. I'm Angela Atkins of Your Health Unbound, and I'm so happy to be here again to bring you some tips. And before I get started, I want to just say, hey, we had some really bad storms last night, and I hope wherever you are, you made it safe to, if you were traveling, if you were home, if wherever you were, that it was safe and you didn't have any damage, and all of you and your loved ones are safe this morning, because I know it was pretty bad in some areas, and I heard on the news that different areas had more rain than others. And so this morning I'm thinking of all of you and letting you know that my heart goes out if you've had any trouble, because this has been an awfully wet season from beginning of spring through summer, and now here we are in the fall and heading towards winter, and it just seems like the weather is not releasing us from all the wetness. So I really want to say I hope everyone is safe and that there was no serious damage anywhere, and welcome you this morning. So before we get started, I just want to say all of these tips that I'm offering you are things that I feel are easy to manage, easy to incorporate into your life. And for that reason, I say in 30 days, you can make a significant change in your life if you make a conscious effort to do this. And so for that, I'm going to say, let's offer it as a challenge to you. I know myself when I first started on my journey down, from being ill to getting well, because I was ill for many years. Many of you know my story. I was sick for about 5 years. I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia, and then later I was diagnosed with celiac disease. And all these things compounded how I felt, and I wasn't really feeling myself, a lack of energy, really lack of motivation to do anything because it was just so difficult. And if you have had experience with people who've had fibromyalgia, or if you've had it yourself, you know how difficult it is with the pain and the inability to feel like you're living the life that you want to live. And because of that, that's why I'm on this mission to share these things with you, that it's not as difficult as you think to recapture, to reclaim your life, to be the best you can be, and to do things in a simple way. It's not dramatic, it's not drastic, you're not changing everything all at once. And so many people get that mindset that it's difficult to change, that it's difficult to make a difference in your life, and it really is not. It is very simple if you do it mindfully, and if you do it in a way that it works where you are right now. If you're someone that is not living the lifestyle that you know that's providing you with the healthy and joyfulness that you need to live a full life, then doing these simple little things over the course of 30 days, you can build on them. You can make them into a habit, which is how we basically live our lives. So if you think about the things that you do, let me stop for a second. Good morning, Tom. So glad to have you here. If you think about how we live our lives, we have many things that we do without thinking, and most of them are habit, or they're autonomic processes. We don't think about breathing, our body just does it for us. That's an autonomic process. But we do other things in our lives that we have built the habit. You may have a series of things that you do in the morning to get you out on the day. You get up, you take a shower, you brush your teeth, you get dressed, you go. Now, there are days that maybe you don't do that, and your process gets a little off, and you might find your day is a little off. Like on the weekends, you may not do exactly the same things that you do on the weekday when you're preparing to go to work or school or whatever you're doing. But those habits are ingrained enough that if we miss a day or two, it's not going to take us out of those habits. And that's why I say these are tweaks, because in order for us to build a habit, we have to do them consistently. Now, 30 days really isn't enough time to build a true habit, but it's a good start. And if you build it and you stay with it, then you will build that habit. New research has found that it takes 66 days to build a habit. So if you take this 30-day challenge that I'm offering you to build upon these tweaks that I'm offering you, you'll be halfway there to your goal. And what the goal is to make your life better. It's not to do any one particular thing. It's not to change something because it needs to be changed. It's to build your life in the way you want to live. And so if things are working for you, then that's great. I'm happy for you. But for those of you that find that it's just not everything you want it to be, you were living like I was, without the energy to go forward, without feeling like your life was rich enough in the sense that you could do everything that you wanted to do, then I offer you these tips, and I offer you to share them with people you may know. There are always people out there that we know that you think, hey, they should have really heard this. So I encourage you, take it and share this video on your timeline, share it with people you know, post it wherever you think that it would be helpful to someone to get some tips to move them forward in their life. Now, I know for me, it started slowly. As I said, I was pretty much on the couch, is what I call it, is where I was flat on my back, just exhausted every single day for about 5 years. And if somebody had told me the simple tips that I'm offering you today that I could have built upon, then I probably would have found a way into this much more gradually than I did, because I went all in when I discovered what was wrong with me and that it was really nutrition that I needed to support myself. I just went all in, and it took a lot of effort. But if you start where you are today and build out these little tiny habits into bigger ones that become a way of life for you, then it won't be so difficult. So let me start off with the very first thing that I think is probably more important than even nutrition. And many of us don't value it because we put everything else in our lives ahead of it, and we think we can put this off and wait and get to it. And that's sleep. Believe it or not, I think sleep is probably more important than even your nutrition, because everything your body does while you sleep helps your next day, helps your body regenerate, because it's going through this whole process of detoxifying and clearing out all that waste and sludge, as you want to think about it. If you think about it in reference to maybe a car, so if you don't change your oil, it kind of gets sludgy and the car doesn't work efficiently. Or if you leave your car out in bad conditions, like you live near salty water and you don't protect your car, either with even just waxing it, keeping it kind of a film over it to protect it against that salty air, you're going to wind up with a rusty vehicle. Well, we kind of rust out too if we don't have enough sleep. If you think about it, all day long, we're asking our body to do all these things, and we're giving it things. We're putting food in and drink in and chemicals on our body, and we're breathing in air that probably isn't the cleanest, or we're exposed to fumes somewhere. And then our bodies at night need to go through and just from the top down work through, clear our brains out, clear our organs, our lymph system, just basically detox our entire body and when we sleep. So if we're getting less than optimal amounts of time sleeping, and for the average person, that's between 7 and 9 hours. And that may be a lot for some people. And I hear people all the time saying, oh, I can get by in a couple hours of sleep. Sure you can. And you can do it for years. And then your body starts to break down. Your body is slowly not getting what it needs. So now, while you're young or while you're able, you can go those few hours. And I hear it all the time that, oh, I really don't need much sleep. And then as people approach midlife or later in life, they find that bodies just don't function as well. It's because they haven't been adequately detoxified on a regular basis. And so things build up. And it's really difficult when you wait until you've got the buildup to get rid of it. And so instead of going through these major detox cycles where you go through and you eliminate all these sorts of things and you drink green juices and all sorts of other things that people recommend, do it on a daily basis. Let your body do natural detoxification during your sleep. Now that sounds very simple. Sure, I need to sleep more, but how do I do it? Right now I have so many things going on. And believe me, I get it. I work, I have a family life, I have grandchildren, I have interests outside of the home. You want to do it all, but how can you do it all and get enough sleep? Well, again, there are simple ways of doing it. Before we go, let me just say hi. I want to say hi to Nafisa and to Michael. Glad to have you here. I really enjoy seeing people show up because it's early in the morning in the East Coast, and I know if you're on the West Coast, it's difficult, and I hope if you view it later in the day, you understand that we all have to hit our times. Again, this is what I need to do in order to give you this information and to make my day work too, because I have commitments like you do, and so I have clients, I have issues that I need to take care of during the day, and so I appreciate when you get up with me early in the morning on Saturdays. Hi Adrian, thanks for coming. So what are the simple tweaks you can do to make sure you get that sleep that you need? So many of us try to prioritize our day. And I say that in quotes because what is a priority? By definition, a priority can only be one thing. And yet we assume we have all these priorities that have to get done in a day or in a certain amount of time. It's almost impossible to do a huge amount of things and do it well in a limited amount of time. So when you look at a priority, you have to think, what is the one thing that must get done within whatever that time limit is? So if it's a work day, maybe you have one thing that must get out today. Maybe there's one thing, one product, one call, conversation, or something you must get done. Well, that is your priority. All the rest of it become below that. And they can be done maybe later, another day, 2 days, a week, a month. They're not a priority. So if you make sleep a priority, one of the things you can do is look at what you're scheduling during the day. So let's say you have all these activities you need to get through and your day ends pretty late. Well, then you want some time to rest and recover and to enjoy yourself from the day. You work hard, you want to rest and enjoy your day. Well, that resting and enjoy your day may mean you have to prioritize that too. So let's say you want time with your family. Great. Dinner or a social hour or whatever it is. But then that doesn't run into let's watch the news late at night and let's stay up and catch up on email or play another video game, because all those things are not priorities. Believe me, the news will be there tomorrow. It will be there 24/7. You can pick it up in the morning. There's nothing so dramatic unless you're a news reporter or your job is to get the news. It is not so dramatic that you have to let it wait. And God forbid the days that there are things happening that are so dramatic that gets us stuck to the television or has us reading online or newspapers, because then the days are really out of balance. So on days you want to keep in balance and get your sleep in balance, figure out what that priority for outside of the work priority is, if it's the family time, like I said, and then adjust your sleep time. So if you normally go to bed after the news, say, I'm going to go to bed before the news, and I'll let that go. Because first off, your mind is still racing. Listen to the news. There's a lot of sensationalism on the news, and we want to release that before we try to sleep. So watching the news before sleep is really not good for your brain. It's not good for your body to go into that excitatory phase before you try to fall asleep. And it may actually help you fall asleep more easily if you don't listen to it. So maybe a half hour early, you say, I usually go to bed at whatever it is, 11 o'clock. Tonight I'm going to go to bed at 10 o'clock or 10:30. Let's try a half hour. And then every night you go back a little bit more. Maybe you adjust it 15 minutes, maybe you adjust it 30 minutes until you find you're sleeping your optimal time where you're waking up in the morning feeling more refreshed. Your goal is to get that 7 to 9 hours of uninterrupted sleep where you feel refreshed, not where you wake up and you feel dog tired, because that's not really helping you. If you're feeling tired, you haven't gone through that refresh cycle. So there are other things that you need to do. But the first thing I'm offering you is adjust your sleep. Now, we've talked about sleep before, and there are many things you can do to help with getting to sleep if it's not an easy thing for you. The first thing you need to do is to remove all those things that make you kind of antsy before you go to sleep. Don't read your email that may, generate some sort of task you need to do or some sort of emotion that comes up. Don't watch the television because it's going to, again, plus the blue light that comes from it, you don't want all those things to keep yourself awake. You don't want them generating, this is still daytime. You really want to go into that night cycle, again, into the circadian rhythm. Up with the light, down when it gets dark. Good morning, Jody. Glad you've joined us today. Hello, Florentina. So that's the first tweak for you. Just find simple ways to make your sleep cycle a little more restful, giving yourself a little more time to get your body into that detox cycle. So my next tip is really something many people think they don't have time for, but they really do, because I've done this, I've told you before, it's simple to eat at home. You can make simple meals in 15 minutes or less. They don't have to be fancy. They just have to be full of the nutrients that you need. The more that you eat at home, the more control you have over the quality of food you eat and the quantity of food you eat. You know, when you go out to a restaurant or even a fast food place, sometimes you're getting more food than you actually need. And many of us, again, I used this term before, have a seafood diet. They see it and then they want to eat it. So if you're eating the amount of food that you're giving, you may be eating too much. So the control over the quantity of food is important, as well as the quality of food. We don't want to overindulge. We want to eat until we're satisfied. We want to eat until we're no longer hungry. And in order to do that, we need the time to process it. It takes about 20 minutes for those hormone signals to go between our gut and our brain and say, okay, I've had enough. You were hungry and now you're satisfied. And don't go any further. And we may have the tendency, if we're out, it's a social thing, to continue to eat or snack or just munch on whatever is in front of us while we're sitting there chatting. We're at home, even though it's still a very social thing where you should be engaging with your family or whoever you're sharing the meal with. What you want to do is take the time to eat slowly and mindfully, eat only as much as you need not to feel hungry, and then share the rest of the time together as a family, as a unit, cleaning up together, finding ways of sharing each other's life, what the day is about, and not focusing so much on, I have this much to eat. It's you have enough to eat. You've had enough. Your body is telling you you've had enough. So you don't need more food. You may need more in the relationship part. And so rather than using food to compensate for a lack of something, and if you eat alone, I can see how this can be a problem. But what you should do is think of other tweaks for yourself. If there's not someone to share with you, there are ways of doing it, believe it or not. You can share a meal via online. You can Skype someone and share a meal. Now that seems silly to some people, but if you truly live alone, and your friends are out there on the internet, why not share a meal that way? That doesn't seem silly to me. That seems to be a new way to engage. And if you live farther away, enjoy the time with that person or persons by seeing their face while you're sharing a meal. And then you can talk about things that you wouldn't have time to talk about because you're too busy to get on the phone and you don't want to do this and do that. Just share the meal with them via the internet. It's a wonderful feature. But additionally, eating at home is important because you are able to control what the food is that you're eating. When you go out, you don't know where the food is sourced. You don't know how you're going to, get it, who it's come from or how it's been delivered and the food handling. And yes, you can trust the restaurant. You may know the people, but you really don't have control over the kitchen, over the sourcing. And ultimately, it comes down to you need to know what you're going to eat. You need to know what's going in your body. That's extremely important because whatever you put in your body becomes you. So if you are able to digest and process the foods and the nutrients are absorbed properly in your body, then you're going to receive the benefit from that food. But if you don't know what it is, it's possible that you're putting things in your body that it doesn't know how to process, and it could be excreted or it could cause some other issue in your body. So that's what I'm saying. Eating at home gives you far more control over what you eat and how much you eat. So I encourage to use that as an opportunity to create that new habit, to eat more meals at home, share the camaraderie and the community that you have, whether it's with people in your home or with people that you need to reach out to and say, hey, let's make a time, let's share a meal. I'm going to meet you on whatever medium that you use and have a meal together. And it will change the dynamics of your eating, because eating in a social environment with someone you care about generally is more relaxing. It's when you're rushing and you're tense, you may overeat, you may not think about the food you're eating, you'll just grab and go. And that's really what we want to avoid. We want to avoid the grab and go because we don't think about the food we're eating. So I offer that to you as another tip. Now, we've talked about this before. My next tip is about reducing stress. Yes, again, we have stress in our lives and we can't get away from certain things, but we have to learn to develop the habit of avoiding chronic stress and reducing it if it's already in your life. Chronic stress can impair your immune system. It can make us more susceptible to picking up things like colds and viruses. It plays a big role in weight gain because we're not thinking, we're more impulsive to eat. We may do that grab and go thing like I've just said. And along the lines too, eating that way and with all the chronic stress going on, it's going to have gut issues. So you really need to think about, how can I reduce stress and make it a habit? So what I'm talking about is, if you know that there are certain situations that you're going to be presented with on a regular basis, are there ways you can, one, avoid them, two, mitigate the stress by being the one who acts as the voice of reason and calm and say, hey, let's not go there. This is not really good for either one of us or whoever is talking. Or just move out of that situation. If it's a bad work situation that's really causing stress, you may not be able to do something right there and then with the people that you're working with, but you may look towards, can I gravitate to a new focus either in my work or with the people I associate with? If you have to work at the particular place that you work, maybe you look at, can I work in another area? Can I seek out different tasks to do that take me to working with other people? These little things that you do, just don't think that you're completely bound by what you're doing or how it is right now, because you take control. That's the whole point of this. All of this is under your control. If you take control and you say, this is not healthy for me, or this is not achieving the goal that I want, and I want to create a new habit, that habit's going to be, I need to reduce my stress, and my stressor is whatever it is. And the best option for me is to, and it takes a while. It may not happen overnight, but again, give yourself 30 days to plan this out, to work one thing at a time. So maybe the first thing is you work on your sleep. You get that under control maybe in a week or so, or at least you're creating that habit. And then you're really working on how many times a week you're eating at home, how many meals you're fixing yourself or your family's fixing together. And then you get to that stress point where you think, okay, I'm feeling better because I'm sleeping a little better, I'm eating well. Let me think about how I can reduce my stress. Maybe it's taking out one activity. Maybe you've got, the kids go to 17 different activities and you're the chauffeur and you're driving. Maybe you need to back off and say, hey kids, let's think about what's the one thing you really want to do, and let's do that. And then you can do it really well. And then I can be there to support you. Because now, while you're driving one kid to soccer and the other kid to basketball, you might be missing out on one or the other. And you yourself are missing out on a lot. You're trying to get on your phone and read your email, and you're doing all these things that you feel you don't have time for. So if you're going to focus on being there for your child or being there for yourself, then you have to limit the amount of things you do. The fact is, you don't have to do it all. You don't. You choose what it is that you want to do. It's your life. You make that decision. You make the decision to go for what you really want, to offer yourself to the people that you love in a way that you can be there for them. And so if it's causing you stress, you may need to reevaluate it, and you may need to have them reevaluate it. So maybe you get into a situation where you carpool with people, or you make different arrangements where one person does something and the other person chooses to not do something, but there's an alternative for them. So maybe everybody goes to one person's event, and then the next time everybody goes to the second person's event. Now, I understand these are very broad kind of suggestions and they may not apply to your life, but there are ways of doing it. Just remember, there are always options. Don't think that you're bound by what you're already in, because it's that feeling of being bound by it that keeps you stuck, that keeps you in that stressful mindset. And so all I'm asking you to do is rethink, what way can I reduce stress? And in order to reduce stress, it may mean reducing the amount of things in your life. It's very simple. Sit down and write it all out. Take an hour. Sit down and say, this is everything I do in a day or in a week. What is the one that's causing me the most stress? Do I need it? Do I have to do it? And if it is a yes, you must do it, then what is the way I can do it that will reduce the amount of stress? Is it something you can maybe task people to do other parts of it? Or is it something that you can break up into sections so it's not so overwhelming? Whatever it is, it's just find the choices. Remember, you control your life. Take back your power. Stop giving it away to everybody else. Learn to reduce your stress by thinking of yourself first. And that's just one thing. Now, one other tip, I'm going to combine two together because I really think they come together. We're already talking about eating at home, but no matter where you eat, I want you to eat real food. Get rid of the processed food, because that's really hard for our bodies to detoxify from. It does all sorts of things, all the chemicals and the additives and the excess sugars and salts and all that. It just wreak havoc with our body, and our bodies are miracles. They go through this process every day, trying to detoxify, trying to get us back to homeostasis, balance. But if we keep doing it over and over and over again, it gets hard. And our bodies say, hey, at some point, I just can't do it anymore. For some people, that could take 2 years. For some people, it could take 20 years. It doesn't matter how long it takes. Something is going on in there. And then we may not see it as a direct sign. It may come out as small things, skin eruptions, insomnia, eating poor food. For me, because I have celiac disease and I also have a wheat allergy, if I eat wheat, I get insomnia. So I know directly if something has been in my food that I didn't know that was there. If I go out to eat and I haven't checked the quality of the food and I have insomnia, I know that I've got 3 days to get this out of my system. It's going to take some really difficult time. I take some essential oils to help detoxify myself because I know my body. I know what's happening. So I need to eat real food. And while I'm eating real food, I need to eat it mindfully. So it's all about the quality of everything, the quality of the food you eat, the quality that you experience that food you eat, the quality of your sleep. The quality of your life surrounds how you live your life. And what I want to offer you today is helpful ways to make these tips real for you. And so in 30 days, you can practice these tips and use them. I'm going to try to copy this link for you and put it in the chat so you can get this free 30-day, and I'm going to say use it as a challenge for yourself, where you go and you go through these steps one by one, adding into them. In 30 days, you can become a better you. And I want you to feel new and renewed. And in order to do that, I just ask Try these steps one at a time and then build them into habits. Get your sleep in control, reduce your stress, eat well, and this builds a better you. And this is what I offer for you today. Share this with the people you care about, people you know that maybe are not living the life that they want to live and can become a better them. And then 30 days, they can become a new them. And so share this on your timelines, share this with people that you know, wherever they are. And I encourage you, try that yourself. See if these little practices will help you. If improving your sleep is what you need to do the most, then use that first. I encourage you because I know for me, sleep is probably the most important thing. And without proper rest, you're not going to have a great day. You're going to feel sluggish all day. And so you may make the choices you make may not be the best. But for you, it may be food. It may be any number of things. It may be stress. But those three areas I'm talking about, sleeping, getting enough adequate quality food, and reducing stress are the most important keys for you. If there is something else that you think in your life is more oppressive than those three that are not giving you the quality of life you want, put them in the chat box and we can discuss them at a future time. I'm always happy to take on new topics. If you're watching now, feel free to post now, but if you're watching the replay, certainly just post topics in there that you think that are really important. What are the things that make the quality of our lives less? We want our lives to be more than. We want to fill ourselves. We want to feel abundant. And so I offer you that in 30 days, you'll feel like a new you if you make these simple tweaks and create them into habits. I thank you for coming this morning, and I really enjoy having you here. Thank you all, everyone. Thank you, Eric, for coming in at the end. I appreciate it. And again, share the resource I offer you that in 30 days, you'll feel like a new you just by doing these simple tweaks. And join me again next week where we'll have another topic. And until then, I wish you all a great week and be well.